Were there witches in this continent now called America before the arrival of the Spanish? We will find out in this two-part video series. In this first video we will start from our present time and move backward in history regarding the topic of witches. Do you believe in witches or not? Do you believe or not that there are recorded historical events that tell us about them? And to prove this, even though it may seem hard to believe, in the last century, specifically between the years 1917 and 1922, in a town in Mexico, the deaths of several children were recorded. You might ask, what's so extraordinary about that? Well, it turns out that these infant deaths were recorded in the civil registry, and all of them had a peculiar cause of death. All these deaths were said to have occurred in the town called San Bernardino Contla in Tlaxcalan. In that place, the civil register, as part of a government office unrelated to the church, recorded that the cause of death for several children had to do with witches. Yes, in San Bernardino Contla, the civil register recorded the following causes of death. In 1917, it was registered that an unnamed girl, 1 day old, died due to witch injuries. In 1918, the following minors died. Maria Paula de la Fuente, 1 month old, died from witch injuries. Maria Valdiana Leonarda Bautista, 20 days old, died bewitched. An unnamed girl, 4 days old, died from witch bite injuries. Jacinto Reyes, 18 days old, María de Jesús de la Fuente, 4 months old, and Constancio Kawamazzi, 2 months old, all died from witch bite injuries. In 1922, an unnamed girl, 15 days old, died from being exed by a witch. Similarly, another unnamed girl, 16 days old, also died from being exed by a witch. There were a total of 9 records from the civil authority where death was attributed to witches. And well, we are not talking about the colonial era, but just a few years after the end of the Mexican Revolution. Despite this, considering that the majority of the population was rural during those times, we find that beliefs in witches and the deaths they caused were not uncommon. Now, the names for witches and warlocks vary greatly, especially among indigenous or native communities. For example, in the case of Tlaxcala, witches are also called Tlahuelpuchis. Tlahuelpuchi is generally a feminine entity, although there can also be male Tlahuelpuchis. There are a mix of sorcerers and vampires, with the ability to transform into vapor. They feed on human and animal blood, specifically the blood of children. This feeding behavior could be a possible justification for the deaths of the children mentioned in the town of San Bernardino Contla in Tlaxcala. In other places, particularly in the Nahuatl language, witches are called mometzcopinqui. Among the Maya, witches are referred to as X-men. The designation varies according to language and region. Obviously, legends about these beings abound throughout the country. Many of these legends have more negative than positive connotations. Not only do these beliefs suggest that witches attack not baptized children to suck their blood, but some also believe that these beings can attack intoxicated individuals wandering at night, especially in the mountains, or harm lost travelers. Most of these attacks, if they occur, take place mainly at night, especially during a full moon or in a heavy rain or cold weather. All these aspects and more surrounding the witch myth are syncretic issues because the concept of witches was non-existent in these lands. All these myths, including those recorded in the civil register we discussed earlier, stem from the Spanish intervention in the continent. Devilish prejudice and ignorance about witches in Europe were transferred to the continent during the Spanish intervention, starting with the early chronicles of the colonial era and persisting for 500 years. They brought to light witches in these lands. Fray Bernardino de Sahagún, in his work Historia General de las Cosas de la Nueva España, chapter 11 of book 4, describe individuals born under the sign Sequauti, Sequiahuitl, as necromancers, witches, sorcerers, deceivers. According to Sahagún, these individuals could transform into animals. Moreover, they knew how to use words to enchant women, influence hearts as they desire, and perform other malevolent acts. They conducted their enchantments at night, for 4 nights, and had no friends. They didn't enter anyone's house, and not one liked them. Sahagún and many other Spaniards were concerned with identifying these so-called witches and warlocks in the new continent. They became the main promoters of witch myths while simultaneously acting as their adversaries. Over time, with the conversion of new generation to Catholicism, the theme of witches grew, whether these beings were real or not. In the collective imagination, Catholic indoctrination, which viewed anything outside of Jesus, the Virgin, and God as diabolical, led people to spread these stories. Part of the beliefs, whether true or not, began to circulate through word of mouth, continuing to the present day. It is said that witches and warlocks could take on various forms. One of these forms, as mentioned earlier, was transforming into animals. Another famous form, still known today, is that of the fireballs that appear in the mountains. Many legends and testimonies exist about these fireball sightings, such as in Zacatlan and Cholula in Puebla, the archaeological zone of Monte ALBAN, Tlaxcalan, and many other places across the country, while there are explanations involving aliens for these fireballs. The witchcraft explanation suggested that witches, to avoid recognition by people, transform into fireballs. They walk among us, turning into fireballs during special ceremonies at night. In these ceremonies, through specific spells, substances and special plants, they manage to transmute into the famous fireballs. This force allows them to fly easily, traverse forests and mountains, and attack their victims. They could also perch off the roofs of houses. However, there are even older forms, where witches would remove their legs and arms. When detached, they could place them near the fire to keep them warm, or bury them in their homes to remain hidden. They could then attach wings and poultry legs, especially from a turkey. They transform their mouths into beaks with long and thin tongues, allowing them to suck the blood of their victims. Whether in the form of a fireball, a bear, or any other shape, witches enjoy killing newborns, especially if they were not baptized. They would appear in the baby's room, leaving them dead under their cribs, with no drop of blood in their bodies. Witches could also create dolls made of cloth or clay, filling them with maguey thorns and hiding them encased along their ravines. They would cast the evil eye and, with just a glance, steal the beauty and health of children. Of course, there are many myths about protective measures against these attacks still used today. For example, parents would place a mirror and scissors on the child's bed. Behind the house door, a crucifix and a bucket of water would be placed. People would turn a hat upside down, make crosses with pine cones, find and burn the witch's legs, burn black mustard or gunpowder, among many other things. All of the above is part of what has surrounded the figures of witches in Mexico, beliefs that originated in the colonial era and persisted for nearly 300 years during the independent Mexico's more than 200 years. However, what is the same in the Pre-Hispanic era? The reality is that the context referred to so far significantly for the Pre-Hispanic worldview. While there were aspects related to darkness in that era, it differs greatly from the devilish pacts the Spaniards spoke of. Therefore, in the next video, we will demystify the deaths of children attributed to witches in Tlaxcala. We will explore the symbolism of fireballs, transformations into birds, lymph detachment, how someone could become a witch, and many more aspects. The aim is to approach the purest worldview of these beings and phenomena, which were demonized and known as witches up to the present day.